Okay, so this is like a Venn diagram kind of question with probability, and there's also a bit of conditional probability in there. So the group of 12 people met at a cafe for lunch. There's 12 people met. 9 of the people had pie. 7 of the people had chips. So 9 had pie and 7 had chips. That would be 16. That means there must be, because there's only 12 people, there must be 4 who had both. So if there are 4 who had both and that was 9, that would have to be 5 plus 4 is 9. 9 was 9, the pie, yeah, and 7. So 7 chips, that would have to be 3, because 4 plus 3 equals 7. Okay, so now from that we could answer the questions. So what's the probability that they had chips given that they had a pie? Okay, so that given that they had a pie, if you did that just by circling it, common sense would, given that they had a pie, what's the probability they had chips? It'd have to be 4 out of 9. Now, instead of just using our common sense, if we use the formula, it would be the probability of chips and pie over the probability of pie. And this is on your formula sheet. So chips and pie would be in the middle there. That would be 4 out of 12. This is 12 people altogether. Probability that they had pie. So there's 9 people who had pie, even though 4 of them had both. And that would be out of 12. So it ends up being 4 over 9 when you put that into your calculator. A probability, the next one, the probability that you did not have pie given that the person had chips. Okay, so given that they had chips, I'll do that in red, that would be that one. What's the probability that they did not have pie? So 4 had pie, 3 did not have pie, and that would be out of, so it's in this section here, that would have to be out of 7. So let's just apply the formula and see if we can get 3/7 using the formula as well. So the probability that they did not have pie given they did have chips would be the probability of not having pie and having chips over the probability of having chips. So which one of those match that? The probability of not having pie, that would be that, and having chips. So that would have to be that section. So that would be 3 out of 12. And then we're going to put it over the probability that they had chips. So how many people had chips? 7. So 7 on 12. And when you calculate that, you get 7 on 12, like we did in that one. Okay. Okay, so let's just look at the next one. All except for 3 people out of 25 on a European tour had studied French or Spanish. So let's do that. And all but 3. So that means that 3 studied nothing. There's a tour of 25. 9 people only studied French. What is it, French or Spanish? 9 people only studied French. 5 studied both, French and Spanish. Okay, so I'm just going to, I think, just the things, that's French and Spanish, because it can get mistaken a bit. Okay, so looking at this here, what's the probability that they studied Spanish if that person studied French, given that they studied French? So it'd be probability that they studied Spanish and French over the probability of just getting French. We could also do it just using our brain, and then I'll finish it off using the formula. So they studied French if that person studied, they studied Spanish if that person studied French. So that would be that circle there. So they studied Spanish, there'd be 5 of them, but it's narrowed it down to out of 14. Okay, so if we use the formula here, that would be studied French studied Spanish and French, that would be 5, and that is out of 25, and then we're dividing the probability that they studied French. So if we look at the French, there would be 14 out of 25 people altogether. So you end up with 5. Let's have a look at that. Yeah, you end up with 5 on 14, which is what we got up there. So this one here, the probability that they did not study French, given that they studied Spanish. So if you're doing that just using your brain, you'd be looking at the other one. Given they studied Spanish, what's the probability they did not study French? So it's whatever this one here is. Now, I haven't actually worked that out. You'd have to add 9, 5 and 3 and then something, and it's got to add up to how many people are there, which is 25. So 9 and 5 is 14, plus 3 is 17. 17 plus what gives you 25? That would be 8. So where were we at here? So, okay, so this is the probability that they didn't study French given they studied Spanish. So given they studied Spanish, they did not study French would be 8 out of, so there's only 8 and 5. 8 out of 13. So if I want to just try that one, just using like the formula. Okay, so the probability that you did not study French given that they studied Spanish. So that's the probability not French and Spanish over the probability of Spanish. So they did not study French, but they studied Spanish. So that's going to be 8 out of 25. And what's the probability they studied Spanish? 8 and 5 is 13. So that's 13 on 25. And when you simplify that, you get 8 on 13, which is what we got up here. So that's like your desired answer.